Okay, welcome everyone to today's session, and today we are talking about issue of debt, and here the debt is specifically for the case of country. It's a public debt, so we will be discussing the model of debt, the consequence of debt, and there are two theories related to the role of debt in the economy. Okay, so first of all, we start with why there is a need of debt. So it is actually not a bad thing, conditional to its proper utilization. If you have a debt and you use it properly. So then it means it's if you use it properly, then it will not lead to any consequence. The definition of proper utilization is the returns from the debt should be more than the cost of debt. So if we can, let's see if we can write it here. So it means if debt, if cost of debt is I, which is interest rate, and the returns from debt is R, which is investment returns, then debt is beneficial if R is greater than I. So if we are earning more than what we are paying for, then it means that is good for us. So this way we can maximize the benefit from that, and then secondly, it's external source. So when R is greater than I, secondly, further it is an external fund which lowers the risk of the borrower. So what has happened that when a person takes or when a person or a company or a country takes debt, so they actually avail the external resources. So total resources increase. Now it depends how useful it will be. It depends upon how much returns it will get. Then there is firm theory. We already studied in finance that debt is a source of investment. Firm can either access external investment using debt or from equity. So as compared to equity, debt is less risky, and it's a source of financing. Since in the for the case of firms, they usually only take debt, which is where they know that the returns are more than the interest rate that they're going to pay. So if we use the same logic for the country, then we will always be getting benefit out of debt. Next is, so why we need to take a debt? We need to balance government accounts. Why we need to balance government accounts? Because most of the developing countries, so most of the developing countries are working under deficit financing, whereby government expenditures are more than government revenues. So why so when the country is in a development process, they constantly need to feed for new projects, new social infrastructure. They need to for the social safety nets. So if they don't pay for these projects, what will happen? They will slow down or their development will deteriorate. So they need to pay every year. So and these are expensive. For that, they need to go for deficit financing. What does it mean? That their expenditures are more than what they are earning, and the extra portion of the expenditure is financed by external debt. So but that's why they need to balance their accounts. So their accounts is total expenditure is equal to total revenue plus total debt. So they balance their account by getting the deficit from borrowing. Then the meeting unexpected expenditures by households. So every house, when their expenditures are increased unexpectedly, what they do is they take a loan or they use their credit card to pay for to pay for the unexpected expenditures. That's why they take a debt. So similarly, for a capital owner, that's an easy source of future income. So that is an instrument developed by the capital owners so that they can borrow their capital using debt to they can lend their capital using debt to borrowers, and they earn interest income. So this tool is developed for them. So these are the reasons why there is a need of debt. Okay, so let's continue. So what are the institutions available that provide debt to a country? So these includes IRBD, which is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. We also call it World Bank. Then there is IMF, which is International Monetary Fund. Then there's a Asian Development Bank. Then there is IFC, International Finance Corporation. Then there is IDA, International Development Associations. So these are big institutes that provide the debt. So there are many other small institutes, but small institutes require require guarantees which are difficult to provide. So whenever a big institute is providing a loan, smaller institutes automatically provide a loan because a big institutes is automatic guarantee for a smaller institute. Secondly, I'm not writing the name of small institutes because country like Pakistan, whenever they need resources, the smaller institutes cannot fulfill their requirement because their capacity is not that big. So these are the big few institutes that provide loans or debt to Pakistan. Okay. Now, what is an objective of a loan? So objective of a loan is that's given by the international institute. So IRBD gives loan for development. That's because of their name. So World Bank always gives the loan whenever there is a government development project associated with it and they need money for that. Second is there is a balance of payments. So IMF usually pays loan for financial issues whenever they are lacking of finances to import fuel, or finances to balance their budget, or finances to stabilize their currency. Okay, and then there is an IDA which promotes entrepreneurship in poor countries. So these are few objectives of the institutes, big institutes, why they give loan. But these are major. The other institutes are just journal institutes. So they only follow the country's requirements. So their goals are not that specific. Okay, then let's continue. So why debt is bad? So we start with the topic why debt is bad. So first of all, we'll talk from the side of Islamic economics or Islamic finance. So in Islam discourages this conventional debt as a lender has not created any liability and charging premium on it. Uh, and charging premium on it will be considered as interest rate. So let's see. So it says that when a lender lends money to a borrower, so he's technically has not created any liability. He's just giving a loan, and when he asks for the premium, so he's considered as an interest rate. So in Islam, the lending is only allowed. So first of all, we'll define definition of riba here, and the concept of the conventional debt. So what is conventional debt or conventional loan? So here the lender lends money to borrower in exchange for premium in the future, irrespective of what borrower intends to do with the capital or money. So it's an extension of lending to the borrower, and borrower the borrower does whatever he wants. So lender only is interested in his principal amount and the interest rate at the end of the time period. But Islam, according to Islam, so the definition of riba is any liquid asset if lend. So if you lend any liquid asset to another person, let's write it again. If any lend liquid asset gets any type of gain, it will lead to riba. So it means that if one person is giving a liquid asset as a loan to other person, liquid asset includes cash, gold, or other currency or other resources that are liquid or liquid and consumable. So if consumable resources are being lent to another person, and at the end of the lending agreement, he's gaining he's getting any type of gain. That gain can be uh, that gain can be cash or in kind. Means you get some benefit out of it, or you get some favor out of it, or you get some cash in extra cash in return. So all of these are riba. So according to Islam, so only so the in Islam the returns are only allowed if there is any risk or liability is being shared between lender and borrower. Okay, so it means that in conventional loan, the lender is not sharing any risk of the utilization of that money. He is only sharing the risk of delaying his consumption. So that's not a valid risk. So because he's already rich, he that delaying consumption is not a risk for him. So he can share a risk by sharing the risk in the business, or risk of loss. So then he is liable, or he deserves to get a reward, and the method to get a reward is different. So we will discuss it later on. So Islam discourages the interest rate, and it promotes that we should do trading. So it means if a person B wants to get a loan to buy raw material for his business, then the person A should not give him cash, rather than he should give him the raw material. That will transfer the loan agreement to a trade agreement. So in a trade agreement, you can charge extra amount. So let's write it here. So we can convert the loan agreement to a trade agreement by providing non-liquid asset rather than cash to the borrower who needs it. So since and in trade we can sell the item in with profit, so the original lender can become a profitable seller, which is permissible in Islam. So it says that rather than you give a loan where you don't know where the cash is going, either it is halal or haram, or it is productive or unproductive, or which is good for the economy or not. So and you are getting earning out of it. So if you don't know where the cash is being used, so the earning is doubtful. It is halal or haram, we don't know. So what is proposed by Islam is that you become a partner, you provide him the goods that he need. So what will happen that you know where the cash is going, and if you charge extra amount just like all other sellers, that will lead to a permissible profit income, just like all traders do in the shops. So Islam allows to the profit to be earned from lending. Okay, so this way we can remove the discouraged portion or the prohibited portion from our uh, transactions. So let's move ahead and let's see why it is actually bad. So let's move. So there is a Quranic verse, Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat number 275. So it says that those who consume interest, means sood, uh, cannot stand on the day of resurrection, except as one who stands, who is being beaten by shaitan into insanity. Means a person who is be who is a follower of shaitan will only be standing in the day of destruction. uh, and why he is falling, and what is happening because of falling shaitan, he is consuming interest rate, so he is lending using the riba method. So they that is because they say trade is just like interest. So they used to claim that trade is just like interest rate. So charging profit on trade is equal to charging interest rate on loan, but it is not. So because in trade you know where the cash is going and how it is being used, but in lending you don't know where the cash is going and how it is being used. But Allah has permitted trade and forbidden interest rate. So Allah has allowed the trade to be conducted, but He has forbidden the interest. So whoever has received a domination from the his Lord and deceits may have what is past. So it means that and rest and his affair rests with Allah. So it means the people who were previously used to charge interest are forgiven by Allah Ta'ala if they convert to Islam. So they and rest they should avoid doing this transaction. But whoever returns to dealing with interest or usury, mean those who go back to do that again, those are companions in the fire and they will abide there internally. So Allah Ta'ala is saying that if you go back to charge interest rate again, so Allah Ta'ala will put you or will put those people who go to who charge the riba will in fire, and they will remain there eternally, forever. Khalidun means forever. So they will stay there forever. So we should first of all we should not look for logic why interest is being prohibited, because it's directly ordered by Allah Ta'ala not to charge it. But still, there are many studies that came and they developed the logic out of it. So as a course, we have to look what is the main issue behind the interest rate. So let's go towards so so why that is bad for us. So we now start from the accounting scenario. So we use the accounting pattern to see why that is bad. So first of all, so consider the economy is growing at 4%. So let's assume the Pakistan is growing at a 4% GDP growth rate, and our population is growing at 2%. So what will happen? What is the net growth rate? It will be 2%. So because our demanders are growing at 2% and our supply is growing at 4%. So net supply is 2%. It means our growth is lower than what it looks like. So there is a nominal inflation rate of 8%. So in our economy, income is uh, so what is telling us that there is a nominal inflation rate 8%. Okay, so if there is an inflation rate 8%, how much we will be growing? That is 2 minus 8% minus 6. It means every year if inflation is growing at 8%, then and we are growing at 2%, so net growth is minus 6%. So we are actually not growing, we are shrinking. So this shows that technically we are not growing, we are shrinking. It means the value of goods and services produced. And if we add the debt repayments, the equation will become far worse. So it means we are currently at a point where our growth is negative. So like Pakistan, and if we take a loan and we have to pay it back, it will further make it negative. So it's bad for us in terms of uh, the accounting method. So other reasons of the debt to be bad are that if you indulge in debt, so what will happen? It is, as it is a free source, it discourages any efforts to become self-reliant country. So the more that we engage in debt, the what will happen that because we are getting free funds from abroad, so we will become used to of it, and rather than becoming do hard work, we will say just get the money from abroad and forget about paying it back. And rather than becoming an hardworking and productive nation, we become the nation who are used to of borrowing. Okay, so it will lead to the unproductivity of the nation. Second, policymakers take it away out of any financial distress. So so the government, if they don't have an ability to get a country out of any problem, so what they will do, they will take a loan from abroad. So rather than finding solution to the problem, what the policymakers do, they take a loan. So it means it's a way out of problems. So nobody will think of how to solve the problems. Actually, they will just take a loan and finance it and then solve the problem for the time period where they are ruling the country. So easy loans lead to political corruption. We already discussed in the corruption that when a country can get easy loans, when the foreign institutes are providing the loans, so that cash is being held by the government, so they can easily do corruption at the grand scale. So they will spend it way and favor their own personnels so that they can earn out of it. So it will lead to corruption. Present loans do come with conditions which have to be we have to enforce. So the second problem is the international institutes are now more intelligent. So whenever they send a loan, they also send conditions. So these conditions need to be fulfilled. Otherwise, there will be no new loan, and there might be uh, some penalties to be paid, or some restrictions to be uh, held restrictions that will be held against the country. So that's why makes it difficult when a country is used to of taking loan or debt, where every loan is bringing more conditions in a country. So it will make difficult life for the people of a country. Then country becomes dependent and gets dictated from foreign countries. So if we are used to getting loan from abroad, so what will happen, that for every loan will bring new restrictions, and these restrictions will lead to lose of control of a country on their decisions, because the foreign countries will dictate what they want to do with us. So we will be getting orders from abroad. New generation will automatically will become automatically indebted. So when a country takes a loan, it is divided on average on every citizen of a country. So if we are used to taking a loan, every every new born child is already indebted, uh, and he is not responsible for the debt. So it means when a nation is taking loan, the future generation will have to pay it back, and when they will be paying it back, we already seen is in the accounting treatment. So when they will be paying it back, the cash will be going out of the country, so it will be shrinking the nation. So we should be careful in using the debt. Let's move to the next slide. So now we take an example of why debt is bad using a personal loan. So before starting that, let's think about the example. So consider a country where there are only 10 people. So it's a nation of 10 group of people, or 10 cities, or 10 companies, or 10 people. It's only 10 units. All of them require resources at the start, resources to start producing anything for their country. So they wanted to start their business or start the production, so they need resources. Okay, so State Bank of Pakistan prints 10 million of currency, and provide them 1 million loan each. Okay, so 10 million. So let's write one more thing, that this is, so they are printing they are printing how much? So they are printing 10 million. Okay, and they are giving 1 million loan to each of the person who wanted resources at 10% interest rate. Hence, each will have to pay back 1.1 million, okay, and in a year, and bank will earn 11 million. So how much is the profit? So they are getting 1 million profit just by rotating the currency. Okay, so what does it mean? That State Bank is giving them loan so that they can produce for the country. That loan is total amount 10 million, and that is divided equally to each of the borrower, uh, and each of the borrower has to pay back 10%. It means at the end of the year, State Bank will earn 11 million. In that 11 million, 1 million is the profit. So what is the liability of State Bank here? So what does State Bank need to do to give 10 million as a loan? So let's see. So State Bank just have to press the print button on the printer in the machine to print the notes. So actually the currency notes are fiat money. So they only have to print new notes and give them as a loan. So technically government has not done anything to create that currency, or anything that leads to a risk of using of the currency. So it means if they're earning 1 million profit, it's just because of rotation of cash. So now since all of the people have total 10 million in the economy, they have to pay 11 million. What each person will do? So they have to pay back zero point 0.1 million each. So total 1 million. So what they will do? So they or individual person, he will work hard, produce his unique product and sell it to 9 people. So since there are only 10 people, every one of them will work hard and produce their unique product and sell it to other 9 people so that they can earn their principal amount, that is 1 million, and the interest amount, that is 0.1 million. Similarly, all other 9 people will do the same thing. Okay, let's move to the next slide. So my question is, does this selling product to each other will generate extra 1 million in the economy? Okay, so the question needs to be thought about here, that if the 10 people are selling to each other, how they will be able to generate extra 1 million in the country? Okay, so definitely it's not, it will not, as the economy is based upon printed currency. It's based upon printed currency, so which stayed same, equal to 10 million. So they are not printing extra note. So they don't have the machine to print 1 million extra. So it means the total currency in the economy is 10 million. So how they will get 11 million out of 10 million? It's not possible. So if they had been given gold as a loan rather than currency notes, means they would have been given commodity rather than the cash. So what have been given, the gold of 10 million would have become more valuable, and its value would have become 11 million. So what is talked about, that if 10 million worth of gold was lent to the 10 people, their economic activity would have increased the market price of gold, as it is scarce in the economy. So when the market price of gold will increase, the it will increase the worth of 10 million worth to 11 million. So automatically the same gold will be more valuable. On the other hand, 10 million worth of cash will only increase inflation if there is increase in market price. Okay, so 10 million will never become 11 million. So that is a problem. So now in this current situation, what will happen? So in this current situation, the best 9 sellers, the best 9 sellers will be able to pay it back. So the out of 10, the first 9 sellers will produce their item, and they will sell it to other 9 people, and they will earn their principal amount, that is 1 million, and they will earn their interest amount, that is 0.1 million, and it means the first 9 sellers will earn 9.9 million from the economy, and the amount that is left behind is 0.1 million. And how much the last person needs? 1.1 million. So it means last person will become will be left with 0.1 million, and he has to pay back 1.1. So the only way, the only solution, the only conclusion here is that the last person will have to become bankrupt, because you cannot transfer the cash of 10 million and rub the number and write 11 million on it because they are currency notes. So the last person will be bankrupted because he is not able to earn 1.1 million by the end of the year. Why he is not able to earn 1.1 million? Because the first 9 were able to do it first. So he was the last in the line. So now because of the interest rate, one person have to face loss, and this loss does not depend on the hard work of the people. Mathematically, one of them has to lose irrespective of how good or bad he was. So it means the when he accepted bankrupt or when he was forced to be bankrupt, it was not his fault. It was because of the structure of a loan that at least one of them has to face a loss. So what will happen that every time there is a loan extended in an economy, it will create few winners and it will create few losers who are bankrupted. So it means this is a reason by Islam prohibited the premium on loans which are without any liability. So the State Bank is not taking any liability. Means State Bank is not sharing the loss. They are only concerned about the profits. So what will happen? Hence, the charging interest rate on the loan proceeds in which the lender has not done anything will eventually affect the affect the borrowers if they are doing things correctly. So it means it is a mathematical fraud. So what it is telling here is that at least one of them have to be bankrupt, and he might have not have done anything wrong. So technically, charging interest rate on a currency that is not growing is a mathematical fraud. So that thing is discussed in Islam that if you do not then so if you do not avoid the riba, then be informed of war against you from Allah and His Messenger. So it means if you don't leave say, lending using in riba, then you are actually informed that Allah and His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is is going to have a war with you. So that's a big ask for us. And but if you repent, which means if you forego charging interest rate and you keep the principal amount, means if you give 10 million as a loan and only get 10 million as a back, no principal, no premium, you do no wrong, means that will be okay, and no wrong will be done with you. So if you do nothing bad, and nothing bad will be happen to you, so you should avoid charging riba. So this was the example of a personal loan. Now we'll go towards the case of a country why they take a loan. So now debt, why a country takes a debt. So we are looking at some reasons why they take a debt. So first of all, it's a reason there are some gaps that lead to debt. So we are going to study that gaps. So consider a country have a GDP and it is growing at small g. So the new GDP will become Q1 is equal to 1 plus G into Q0. So old GDP multiplied by the accounted for the growth, it will become the new GDP, and the change in GDP is the growth rate. So the maximizing the GDP is maximizing delta Q is our target. So in a number amount, the increasing Q is our target. And according to macroeconomics, we already know that if this is our target, and that is capital output ratio, means how much capital is needed to increase output by 1 unit. So it means we need this much investment. So investment is equal to capital required for 1 unit increase in output, and that is required output. So write it here. So here A is the amount of output increase because of one amount of investment required to increase output by 1 unit. So it will, so K tells how much money you need to increase GDP by 1 unit, and delta Q is the amount of GDP to be increased. So it means K multiplied by delta Q is, what is this? This tells the demand for financing required to achieve the target growth. So and that demand is I. So in macroeconomics we study, and in macroeconomics investment is actually demand for financing. Okay, so let's settle it out. Okay, so it will tell how much investment is required to achieve our target. So first of all, we set our target and we find out that how much financing is needed to achieve the target. Now we move forward. So next is, so to invest we need saving. So saving is supply of financing. So saving is S0 plus S1 Q0. So saving is what is saving? Say saving is the resource that is left after consuming out of income. So suppose GDP is our income. So after consumption, what is left behind, that is saving. And small s1 is actually marginal propensity to save. So and s1 is always between 0 and 1. So this tells us how much percentage of income we are saving. Okay, let's see. So we need to make sure that saving is equal to investment. In equilibrium, the supply of financing should be equal to demand of financing. So in Pakistan, let's consider an example of 2013. The investment required was 14.22%, but the saving done was 8.7%. So saving, the supply of financing was less than the demand of financing. So it makes the gap of minus 5.5%. So it means the country requirement of financing is being, there is short of supply and there is a shortage in the economy. And this is gap number 1. So we need to fill this gap. So let's move to. So secondly, our country needs imports of capital goods and machinery to sustain the development needs. So in order to grow consistently, we need to get machines or raw materials or fuel and other technology goods, so that we can grow. But when we are importing, so when we are importing, we need to pay it in foreign currency. So, but and we do not have the printing press of foreign currency. So how we can get the foreign currency? So we need to export our extra output to earn for import payments. So we need to export something so that we can get the foreign currency foreign currency to pay for imports. So it means, so the cash receivable and cash payables are in foreign currency. So if the cash payables are compulsory to grow, we need to create a stream of cash receivables so that we can pay. Otherwise, we don't have printing press to print dollars. So what will happen? So let's see. So in order to at least create a balance in trade, means cash payable is equal to cash receivable, we need to make sure our imports are equal to our exports in value. Okay, so for the case of Pakistan in 2013, the imports were 12.7% of GDP, exports were 7.7% of GDP. It means import minus export is minus 5%. This means the cash payable is 5.5% more than the cash receivable. So how will we be getting these extra dollars? So let's see in the next slides. So last is government has to constantly expend expenditures on infrastructure, public services to maintain peace and eradication of poverty and joblessness. So government need to pay for the projects that is being shown in the first slide, that they need to make sure that there is a stream of funds going out and spent on the, and that spending should be financed from the government revenue, so that government has earning from the taxes and then spending on the poor. So what is happening? It should be equal in accounts. So in Pakistan 2013, the expenditures were 19%, the revenue was 14.3%, the gap was 5.7%. So it means our expenditures were 5.7% more than the revenues. So it means we need to get this extra funds. So let's see. So lastly, we need to, we already taken a debt. So we are already indebted previously. So we need to pay domestic debts. Domestic debt is equal to the domestic debt amount and its installments. Foreign debt is the foreign debt amount and its installments. So the total debt to be paid is debt domestic and debt foreign. So we need to pay this debt also. So it means why we need to take a debt. We need to take a debt is to fill these gaps, because we don't have resources to fill these. Because if any one of them was positive, it would have been used to finance others. But since all of them are negative, for the case of Pakistan, so what is happening, that we are forced to take a loan because our source of earning are all negative, and we also need to pay for foreign debt. So that's the fourth gap. So what is happening, that our investments are less than saving, our imports are more than exports, our expenditures are more than our expenditures are more than our income. So we don't have any positive earning source. Secondly, we already have to pay debt back. So filling these gaps and paying for the debt requires more debt. So, and further, if there is any unexpected disaster on any event, we need to take a debt. So these are the three reasons that explain why a country takes a debt. Okay, so let's see. So how we can get out of this problem? Following are the few reasons. First is we need to substitute imports, or we need to include, we need to produce the imports that we are getting from abroad, and so that we can reduce the import bill, or we can increase the exports. Second is we need to promote the saving rate, so that that saving rate is equal to the investment rate, so that we don't have to take a loan. We need to increase exports. We need to reduce unnecessary expenditures by the government, so that the total expenditure is reduced. And we need to negotiate by reducing the debt interest rates or waiving it off, so that we don't have to pay it back. and then rather than taking a loan or a debt, we can go for foreign partnerships, so that if there is a loss, the loss is also shared. And there's a method called sukuk in Islamic finance that can be used to form a Islamic based bonds, which will help us in growing, rather than we are forced to forced to take a loan and then we have to pay back, and for that paying back we take another loan. So now we are going towards the theories that explain the relation of debt with growth. So first is a debt cycle theory. So this theory advocates the benefit of debt, like a firm requires debt for its finance structure to grow. Similarly, a country needs debt so to keep its projects running and adopt new technologies. So taking a debt is needed for a country, just like for a company, debt will help them to grow faster than their resources. So country can grow faster than their capacity if they take a loan and use it properly. So all it requires is to invest debt into profitable projects whose returns in present value NPV is more than what we have to pay, which is the interest premium. So hence NPV of a debt investment must be greater than the debt payments. Okay, so if this is followed, a time will come, we will become self-sufficient and we repay all our debts. So if we are growing faster than our debt, so eventually we will repay all of our debts and we don't need debt. We will get rid of debt forever. Second is what's our its criticism. What can be the possible limitation of this theory? That is corruption. That we are not able to earn uh, more than the debt premium is, because we are not spending it properly. There is a corruption in it. Some people are deducting their share before investing it. So actually lower amount is being invested. So returns are also lower. Lack of profitable projects. We are not looking for profitable ventures that can help us to grow faster. We are forced by international contracts. We have given contracts to MNCs where we cannot earn for us. Now the MNCs are earning for them and they are taking their profits abroad. Then that is conditional, means the countries who are giving us loan are not allowing us to spend the loan freely. So that makes it difficult to earn or get out of the problems and earn more than the debt installments. So how much NPV is required to be higher than the debt is also another debate. So it's very difficult to measure how much extra we need to earn. So because uh, we don't know how much cash extra we could generate. Then there's another theory called debt dependency theory. So it's also called dominance dependency theory. Okay. So the main idea is that developing countries are dependent on developed countries for their growth. So it means that we are already dependent upon the developed countries for our growth. And this is a new type of colonialism, that the rich countries are now dictating the poor countries. So that comes with conditions such that it does not allow the transfer of technology so that country can develop and become self-sufficient. Means the new debt are not allowing us to transfer the technology, which is forcing us to stay within the debt trap. So the only success story in the world, who any only country that developed because of that is Israel, and because they were given unconditional loans, while all other countries are being forced into dependency because of the capitalism or colonialism structure. So how it makes us dependent? So there are a few examples. First, our terms of trade are not positive. Our value of exports are less than value of imports. It means we are already losing from our international payments. So if we do any investment, So we are already losing. So that investment will also be will go into loss. Second, we are forced into, we cannot import, we cannot substitute the imports, or we cannot subsidize our exports because of the protectionist policies by the developing countries. They discourage the dumping policy, or we call it anti-dumping policy, that we cannot subsidize our exports, because they think that if we subsidize our exports, it will destroy their market, because their local firms will not be able to compete. So that's why it's not allowed uh, to subsidize the exports for the developing countries. Then there is quota or tariff. So the trade is intentionally made expensive for the low developed countries, so that they cannot grow. So the rich countries sell their goods expensive, and the rich countries also put a tax on the goods from the low developing countries, so that their goods become expensive in their market. So that the poor countries are not able to sell faster or sell more. So they are not able to capture the market. Lastly, the MNCs, multinational corporations, they restrict the low developed countries from developing, because whenever there is they see a profitable venture in the low developed countries, any new MNC comes to the country and captures the venture, so that the country cannot earn the profit for themselves, rather than MNCs earning, and they are taking their revenues abroad. So that's an example of Gulf countries. So USA invested in Saudi Arabia for oil extraction and provided them with easy loans, but there were some minor conditions. First, uh, we will be the only loan provider, and we will provide at a discounted rate. So USA will only provide the loan. You cannot get the loan from anyone else, and for that they will give you a discounted rate. Okay. Next is, uh, you will keep all of the earnings in our banks. We'll provide you security and secrecy. So any earning that the Saudi country is earning, they will have to put that earning in the Saudi banks, in USA banks, and USA banks will in advance give you them security and secrecy. And Saudi Arabia will sell their oil to USA at a discounted rate. So now study this condition. Even if Saudi Arabia performs well in oil sales, but all of the earnings are controlled by the lender. That is why even though Muslim countries are very rich, but they are not able to help other Muslim countries, because their resources their resources are being held by the other countries. So they are being forced not to help other countries. So, lastly, we are talking about what are the different types of debt. The first is, there are for the case of public debt, there is internal debt, the debt that the country takes from the Central Bank of Pakistan or local banks. So, if Pakistan government is taking loan from State Bank of Pakistan or local banks, that is internal debt. If the country of Pakistan is taking loan from abroad, that is external debt. And then there's a debt, because types of long run and short run. If the debt is to be paid back in a year, it's a short run loan. If it has to be paid back more than a year, it's a long run loan. And there's a new term that is specifically prominent in Pakistan, that is called circular debt. So circular debt is a cascade of unpaid government subsidies, which results in accumulation of debt on distribution company side. The distribution companies then could not pay to power producers, who in turn cannot pay to fuel providers. So let's, in short, it is saying that if the government is saying that sell electricity cheaper to the people, so the WAPDA, uh, or the LESCO will provide cheaper electricity to the people, and the gap will be paid by the government as a subsidy. And since government does not have any resources, so that the subsidy becomes cash receivable or becomes a debt in on the government side. So the company, the LESCO is not getting the subsidy, so they are not able to pay WAPDA, the electricity producers, the amount that is due. So it means the debt is transferred from the LESCO to the electricity producers. Okay, the power producers, and the power producers are not earning the revenue from the electricity production, so they will not be able to pay resources to the fuel providers, the companies who are providing them oil to produce goods, or coal or gas. So it means now that is being transferred from the electricity providers to electricity producers and then to the resource providers. So it means this becomes a circular debt. So, and this circular debt is paid by the government by taking another debt. So debt, it creates a bigger debt. So this is called circular debt. So lastly, how to solve the problem of debt? So what we can do is we can make cartel with low developed countries so that we can share each other with resources so that we don't have to take a loan. We can make better negotiation with the loan provider companies so that we can make it as cheap as possible. We can control the MNCs so that they don't move the cash out of the country, so that they have to invest in the country, and that will help the country to avoid the debt. Then we can develop our own human resource, means rather than getting knowledge from abroad, we develop our own knowledge and we innovate our technology rather than buying from abroad. And then we improve our terms of trade, like we make our exports more valuable than our imports so that the cash receivable from abroad increases. So in conclusion, we should stay away from debt as much as possible. We promote partnership and we should work on the debt conditions. We should explore our own talents and work on our self-esteem rather than becoming used to of begging from abroad. This was the topic that we needed to discuss today. Hopefully you understood the discussion on the public debt. If you have any question, do ask or do write in comments. Thank you very much.